years.
It did, yeah.
3 years. It started off as a small project, strictly a passion project for Tammy and myself, and then it just spiraled from there. And you know, Tammy likes to tell the story of how this ball got rolling, so I'll let her start.
It was very simple. This is what happened. This is how the story happened. So, we have a show called Fanatics, and we go around to different comic conventions, and we meet people, and we meet all sorts of celebrities, and I'm never fazed by anyone I meet, except when I found out that Mitch was going to be at London Comic Con. And that was when I thought, oh my God, like, this is someone from my background now. I mean, all over, but this was someone I really wanted to meet. And so we met, and we became friends pretty quickly. Like, it was great.
Like this.
Like that. And then years later, we met up again. And I said, you know, your story is so amazing. I'm going to do a documentary on you, just like that. There was nothing, and not even a month later, I don't know, it could have been weeks later, he calls me, he says, well, when are we starting? And I didn't panic. I mean, Morgan and I both teach and film, but this is our first film. And so I called Morgan and I said, we're making a documentary. And of course, that was just before COVID. And so we had to deal with that, which is why some of our video, some people were sick, and we had to go over 3 years of recording because we couldn't get to everybody. And it's a passion project. There was, you know, we didn't have funding for this. This was something that we really wanted to do, not just for the people involved, but for the fans. And so that's how it started, right? That's how it started.
And the people that
That's right.
no.
Oh.
Check.
You on?
Yep.
Good. Talk.
Waiting for the lady to ring.
You can use mine.
You're loud like Mitch, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
I forgot what it was.
That's fine. Just that it's taken, it took 3 years.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes, because, you know, the further along we went, the more people we met. And we drove, Tammy and I are from London in the area. And we drove to see Mitch at his home in Toronto, Glenn, at his home in Toronto. Dave Cremasco, who was in the film, we went to his house in Hamilton, and I'd like to point out too that all of the still photos that you saw in that film were taken by Dave.
Yeah. Just about any photograph that you see of the show, Dave Cremasco.
He's cameraman.
He's very fortunate, very fortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do those of you who have questions for either myself or Tammy or Mitch or Dave, I'll come find you with the microphone so that everybody can hear. Does anybody have any questions right off the bat?
Don't be shy.
Got a question over here?
We love talking.
My name is Brandon, and actually I was just watching the show this morning. So on TV, I think it is, but I do watch it from time, and the one thing like that I find that I appreciate so much more now than when I was a kid is Professor and like Mitch. I don't know if this is ever mentioned or anything, but when Professor Judy's son Miller he introduces himself. He'll say boys and girls, he'll say boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, and people or others or whatever. Back in 1971, back then, didn't really mean as much, I mean, it probably to some people. But now it means so much more to so many, because men and women, or boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, does not include the entire population. And now that we have terms like non-binary and gender non-conforming and stuff, that means so much more to hear somebody from that time period say something that includes everybody. And I was just wondering, like, back then, was that intentional? Was that just something he did? Was anything ever said about it? Did he ever mention it? Was it ever discussed? Or?
What a great memory. I don't remember where I parked my car.
You were going, okay, so shake your head. I don't know if it was intentional or not, or if it was just just a way that he spoke, yes.
I actually found a clip of his Make It So from '62, and he was using that same greeting back then.
There you
So that's
go.
something he did for a very long
So
time.
it was just what it was the way he addressed people, which is amazing. Yeah. Very.
Next question.
Over there. You want to get it? Okay, you can run.
Hey, my name's Bill. This is Pops. You mentioned this recently. How heavy were those flowers you were dropping on the Guru's head?
Sorry?
How heavy were those flowers you were dropping on the Guru's head?
Story behind those, because I told you this last night. Every morning that we shot, I can't remember the name of the character was. I think it's, not the grill, the one that we dropped at.
It's the tar guy.
Oh. Him, whoever it is, I can't remember. We would start out with carnations at the beginning of the day, and they'd be carnations. But what we did was we had one of the rock guys, he was sitting up in the grid, our lighting grid, on a sheet of 3/4 inch plywood, and he would sit up there and he would be the guy that when Billy gave his punchline, he would drop the flowers on his head. Okay, so anyways, as the day goes on, as you know, flowers tend to get rather wet. I guess what could be said. And after a little while, we would drop the flowers on Billy, and as the day went on, the flowers got heavier and heavier. So as you watch the segment, if you see Billy go like that, well, that's because there's about 20 pounds of flowers hitting him on the back of the head. So, that was interesting. That was very interesting. We would just get the flowers off the ground, put them in a pail, Rod would pull them back up, drop them again, pull them back up, drop them again, and I guess we did that for, 20 seconds or something like that. And then we would go on to the next, whatever it was, the next character, whoever had that happened to be, and just go on from there.
Thank you for that question. Great one.
Through the years of watching the program, I always liked Brucey, and I think I saw at least one time Brucey move. You guys have an official amount of times he moved during the scene.
I swear, Brucey. I swear, Brucey. I would watch to see if Brucey would wink or something. Never? No.
Never. It's kind of a running gag, and as soon as you give it away, then it's no longer Bruce's dead. But no.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I saw him wink once.
See? See?
Great. Good question, though.
That was a good one.
So this is a weird question, but what is the question you've answered the most over the years? Like everybody, I'm sure asks similar questions. What's the thing? Who did this? What's the question that you have been forced is the wrong word, but given an answer to the absolute many times, so it can be definitive and people can stop asking it?
It's a good question, and the only question that stands out, like glaring, like I must have dealt with this 100 times, maybe even more than that. If you didn't use Billy Van, who else would you use? Who else would you hire? And I just didn't have an answer. I couldn't think of anybody else we could have found that was that talented, that was able to do not just a Wolfman, not just with us, 9 different characters. They were all completely different, sounded different, looked different. That's the question.
Yeah, some people never thought it was Billy,
I
In
was
all the
40
characters.
before I knew that it was the same person.
especially the gorilla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the gorilla was Billy Van, but we didn't start off with it that way. My brother took a day off school, I think, one day, and we got him a drive out to Hamilton, and we asked him if he would get into the costume. That's my brother over there. Just raise your hand if you don't mind. There you go. And what he did actually was throwing the balls at the head, and then, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. He didn't get into the costume. We had a young guy working on the show as a gopher, if you will. He just did what we were told to do. It wasn't an ace cameraman. It wasn't an audio guy. It was just a guy. And my brother thinking, well, why hire another body? So we put him in the costume. And my brother came out that one day and he was throwing the balls, and the guy just didn't know how to fall funny. So Billy said what Billy always said, let me do it, man. I'll do it. And my brother said, no, you can't do that. You've got 9 characters you're doing. You're working your butt off. You start here at 6 in the morning, put the makeup on. You don't get time to leave until 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And he said, come on, man, let me do it. And the next thing you know, he climbed into the costume. We threw a ball at him, and he knew how to die. Well, the next time you watch the show, you will just see what a wonderful actor he was, and how he went down and twisted all the way down and then hit the ground.
It's based on so many descriptions, like yours. I think that it's safe to say that Billy Mann was one of the few people who come up to you and say, I can do your job better than you're doing it. And you'd be okay with that. We have another question here.
Was Martin Short considered in any of this?
He was still in the back.
Okay, so he was too young for that at the time.
You need to be in the show,
To audition for
or
Billy
the comments
Van,
about the show.
to audition for Billy's role.
No.
No.
We knew right from the very beginning that we were going to hire Billy if he would take the job. And it wasn't Billy. We didn't hire him to do 9 characters. Like I said, we just wanted him to do the count. And then it evolved from there. I was thinking one of the next character. We decided to do the Wolfman character. And he heard us talking about it. He said, let me do it, man. I can do it. Give me more. Let me do it. And if down there and said, no, Billy, you're way too busy. You're doing the count. You're leaving Canada every Wednesday, jump on a plane, go to do the
Sonny and Cherry.
Sonny and Cherry. And then come back as the 2 producers, Sonny and Cherry from Canada. So, no, he was the man, and every time we came up with a new idea, he was in the office one day and he heard about this, we're going to consider him a Wolfman. And he turned around like that, turned back to him and said, I am Wolfman. Okay, you got that job. And after one, after another, he owned that show.
I could use Jill. Why 1 hour as opposed to a half hour? It seems very ambitious to do a full hour show. Like most shows in those days were half hour, really, huh?
Because the costs don't really change much, but you can, we charge CH, which we did the show for, we charge them X number of dollars, and we rationalized the cost, the expense, because it was a whole lot of product we did, 130 hours of television. And, I'm sorry, Canadian, excuse me, Canadian television. But that's the answer, I think.
It went to half an hour.
Did it?
Yeah, when it was sold to,
In the
in the
US.
States, yeah, it was sold to, who the heck was it? Yeah, the talk show.
KTLA in California.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they edited it down to half-hour shows, and it ran here, I think, at 4:30 on ABC.
Yeah.
For a long time. But that's, as far as I know, it was then after it went down there.
I'll jump on that and give you an interesting story at the end. When they came to Canada from KTLA and they sat down in the boardroom with us and they decided to buy it, but not buy it, but license it. So we sent it to them, and they only wanted a half-hour show, not an hour show. So we agreed with that. They chopped it down to half an hour. And the interesting thing is they put us on from 11:30 to 12, 5 days a week at night. Opposite the king of late night television, Johnny Carson. And believe this or not, it's absolutely true. More often than not, we had better numbers than Johnny Carson did. And the reason we did, I learned about this afterwards actually, that my son, actually, our son told us that, because he knows all about colleges, he said, there are more colleges and universities in California than anywhere else in the United States. So the college kids would go home after school, they have a bite to eat, get down to doing homework, whatever else they had to do, and then they did this, and then they did that, and then they rolled the doobie, and since there were so many colleges and so many students, it wasn't hard for us to have better numbers than Johnny Carson.
I can see y'all probably.
Well, let me make sure it's clear.
Say hello to Linda for me up there, Morgan.
Hello, Linda. Well, how are you? Like a cabaret host. Thanks for doing that. Have you tried the roast beef?
First of all, I just want to say thank you to all of you. That was a pleasure. Thank you so much. And second of all, I wasn't sure if I heard it, I might have missed it in the show, but I was just wondering if you could tell me, if you recall, what Vincent Price's fee was. And if you're uncomfortable with saying it, what percentage of the total budget was his fee? Just curious what Vincent cost.
$10,000.
No way. Awesome.
Now, mind you, the way we got him for $10,000, we said we paid him, of course, and we said, we only need you to do all that stuff that he did in 130 episodes. All we need you for is 2 days. And I'll tell you what we'll do. If you're shooting a movie in Italy or this, that, where we are in the world, we'll pay to fly you to Toronto or into Hamilton, and then we'll get you back out again. So that's a real tasty thing, because we said we'll do it every 2 days you want. So if you're shooting a movie, we'll take you 2 days off and fly you in. So you can continue getting paid up there, and you get paid at this end, and he had never done a children's show, and he found that titillating to be able to do that. Just take a message from me.
That was Canadian dollars? Canadian dollars?
I don't remember. Good question. Yeah. But you know, occasionally our money was worth more than the US money.
Yeah.
He was happy with it though.
Awesome.
Another great story for you, if I may, about when we brought Vincent out onto the set. Guys from the crew were all set up and everything, and he came over to me, I think. Well, me and Rick, both of us were standing together, and he came over and said, "I'd like to borrow a car for 20 minutes." And we looked at him and said, "Are you After crazy? You're Vincent Price, you want to borrow a car? And we said, don't worry about it. So we got him a car and a driver, they left, and he came back 20 minutes later with a case of 24 beer over here and a case of 24 beer over here, cracked it open, and he had a beer with all the guys on the crew. And I guarantee you, for the rest of their lives, anytime they go party or whatever, they'll come up in the conversation, I had a beer with Vincent Price. I'm sorry? A stubby. I don't drink beer, so I think a stubby, well, let me get into that.
I have a question about you talked about the show being syndicated in California. Was it ever syndicated in any other country or any other states? I mean, I think it was in the state of Georgia.
Yes.
My mother-in-law came from there, and he remember seeing it around the time that I was really son.
No, it was syndicated in the U.S. Another little funny anecdote for you. I forget who it was talking to, but a cop in New York City was telling somebody that this show was playing here, I forget what time, 4:30 to 5 or something like that, and all across town, all the drug sales stopped for 30 minutes because the dealers wanted to stay at home and watch Frightenstein. I think for a period of time in the UK.
And, you know, for myself, when I lived in Ottawa, I watched it on the local station there. When I moved to Calgary, I saw it on the station of Spokane, Washington. Follow-up question.
I'm wondering if the show was ever translated into French or any other languages.
No, not that I know of.
Maybe we should
What?
translate it so you get it on the
Soccer team, bro.
I don't speak any other language. I can do the closed captioning.
Are you looking for work?
No, yeah.
I can
Outside of the cartoons that were there, Robin Hood, what was the Amazing Spider-Man, both of those were translated into French. They saw you correct.
I'll tell you a story about Robin Hood. The guy who produced Robin Hood was a friend of ours. His name is Al Guest. And when we were talking to Al and telling him about, we told CH we'd get Vincent Price. And of course, we didn't know who Vincent Price was, where to find him or anything. And Al said, I know somebody who can introduce you to Vincent Price. And he did. He introduced us to, what was it called? The name of the comic book. Biggest horror magazine in the market. Yeah, Famous Monsters, right. So he put us in touch with him. We told him about our dilemma. We already promised to get Vincent Price. And he said, don't worry about it, I'll introduce you. And he did introduce us, and of course, the rest is 56 years later. Yeah. Anything else?
Okay, got another question over here?
Hi there, Darren. For me, like so many, the show just changed everything from seeing it the first time when I was, I can't remember, 4 or 5, 6 years old. By that time, it would have been 76, 77-ish. I remember the first time hearing the Wolfman spin jump and Jack Flash.
Yeah.
When I was, again, 5, 6 years old. And you know, formidable change in time for a youngster that age, but that really was just so fundamentally changed everything for me. So being here now, seeing and watching this, again, just thank you for everything that you did. I do have a question on the syndication of the music piece. I find that really fascinating. Like, obviously a little bit of a misstep. And then, like, can you share a little bit more about what you're doing to remedy that? In terms, like, is that still ongoing in terms of the licensing of the music, or has that journey ended in terms of?
No, there aren't enough numbers. There's not enough money involved. Like when I only register the show now. Whenever I license it to somebody, whether it's a country or a city or whatever, a network, they don't pay me enough for me to pay, I think we talked to the Rolling Stones people at one point. They wanted, I think it was $225,000 to use their song. What was the other one, another big name?
Sly, Family Stone.
Thank you, Slide and Family Stone. Actually, that gets an even better story. But they were again in the $200,000 market, and it just wasn't that much profit in it for us. So we just had to go ahead without the license.
Are they gonna make, are you planning on putting music in like 3 years ago when we talked about it? I know that was part of the plan, to put music in place up so that we can get those
Yeah, that was
clips
right.
back, right?
No, haven't acted on that at all. For a very funny story actually about Sly and Family Stone. My wife and I, are you still out there, Robin?
I am.
That's my wife.
She's thinking you
Well, I'm over there. And next to her was my sister, Marilee, who was nice enough to come out today, and my brother, Kerry, who threw the balls at the gorilla. Anyway, Sly and Family Stone, my wife and I went to a cruise a few years ago, an R&B cruise. I think it was 3 days or 4 days or whatever it was. Anyway, they had music, I mean big time music, from 8:30 in the morning until midnight, different band every 20 minutes. And Sly and Family Stone, well, it wasn't Sly, it was the Family Stone was appearing on the cruise. And after their first set, I got friendly with them and told them who I was, and I had been in the music business before that, and blah, blah, blah. I was talking to a sax player, and he was the co-founder of Sly and Family Stone. And I told him that my brother had forgotten his license, and I forgot the license, and he just broke up laughing and said, man, it was 50 years ago. Don't worry about it. And by the way, I'd like you to meet somebody, and he beckoned her over, the lead singer. Her name was Fun, P-H-U-N-N-E. Fun is Sly's daughter. And I told her the whole story, and she broke up laughing and said, it's 50 years ago, man, don't worry about it. That's my Sly and Family Stone story.
Another question?
Just a little speculative kind of question, but when you were talking about the different rating groups and demographics that the show was hitting at different times of day, that made me start thinking of do you have any acknowledgement or recognition from the two guys who created the Nickelodeon show Yo Gabba Gabba? Because for those who are of the right age group, who have kids who were born before 2010 or so, there are so many aspects of that show and how they woven in pop culture and just so off the beaten path, but still educational. I'm like, and the creators were born in the early 70s. I'm like, I would be shocked if there was no cross-pollination of their childhoods and then going back to that later on. So I wondered if that had ever.
Which radio station do you work at?
I'm just a high school.
I know it's the way you're holding the microphone, you got the voice, you got the questions. But I missed the question. What is the question?
There was a show called Yo Gabba Gabba. Do you know that show? He doesn't know that show.
No.
Yeah.
I don't even, I know of the show, but.
I think I saw it on a menu once in an Italian restaurant.
It's got various aspects of things, like where they bring in like from my generation, some people out of like hip hop and stuff like that, who come in and do little segments for the kids, teach them how to beatbox. They'll bring in different musical artists, but it's very. A friend of mine, his wife works in children's media as well, and she was saying that the show when it shows on YTV was the highest rated show between 12 and 4 a.m. amongst the 18 to 28-year-old demographic. I'm like, oh my God, it's the exact same thing, but the show came out, 30 years later, and it was folks who would have grown up with the show who created it. And I'm like, I would be shocked if there's no cross-pollination.
We'll find out.
I'm not even going to touch that word expression, cross-pollination. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, just from my professional perspective, I worked in broadcast for 30 years, and it's not uncommon when a station finds a formula that works and tries to emulate it. And that's it was never looked at really as thievery, you know, unless they were directly taking a character. But it was out of respect. And I think, you know, for just, you know, for me personally, part of the nice thing about putting together this documentary is, you know, knowing the pride that a community would have in their local TV station, as we did growing up, right? We could set our watch by it. We knew when to go to bed by it. And, you know, the people that you saw on TV, you could see in the local grocery store. I remember the first time I ever saw the 6 o'clock news anchor, I thought I met someone from Hollywood. And I remember when I found out that Hilarious House of Frightenstein was a Canadian show, because it just, you know, there was nothing really about it that had the earmarks of being American versus Canadian, but you know, when you get something that's so popular, you just think, oh, it must be American. Louis Toba. No, I thought Louis Toba was American as a kid, you know, because I also see it on the American stations living out west, along with commercials for chocolate bars and things, super flavors that I could never have. In the States. We do need to start wrapping up the Q&A portion. I do want to say that, well, first of all, I want to say thank you to Katie and to Mitch for making the trip down. And Tammy, thank you for making the trip down too.
Thank you for driving me.
Dave, do you have anything that you want to add before we're out?
One thing I always add at the end of this, and